Welcome to the Inspired by Jacqueline podcast, a refreshing place for women struggling with entrepreneurship, faith, or infertility. Stay tuned for today's episode. Welcome to another episode of Inspired by Jacqueline. Today we are joined by another amazing special guest, Sarah Wahiba Senan, and I hope I didn't butcher her name. She is a life and leadership coach who specializes in helping high achieving individuals uncover the deeper mindset blocks and limiting beliefs that hold them back. This is really the conversation that I'm always excited about because it's really in my wavelength. So when I met Sarah, that's just a little insert there. When I met Sarah, I feel that this is how we connected a lot. So with over 3,000 coaching hours across industries, Sarah brings a seasoned yet down-to-earth approach to her work, creating a space where clarity and confidence thrive. Whether she's guiding clients through burnout, overwhelm, or simply the desire to show up differently, Sarah has a gift for helping people address the root of their challenges so they can take meaningful action. She's relatable, experienced, and truly passionate about supporting others in achieving growth that lasts. Welcome, Sarah. And is there anything else you want to add to that amazing bio?
Thank you. Thank you. I think that covers it. Like really, if we were to sum it up in like very simple terms, like not like coaching industry or entrepreneur industry, like I help people get out of their way and out of their head so they can feel better in their day-to-day life. And I am so grateful this is what I get to do every day.
And like I said in between, that little added insert, I feel that when we met and we connected, I think that was our synergy, right? Just that understanding that there's that deeper sense of questions that people may have and the desire to help others, right? And really help them, guide them, and help them along the way to
Yes.
coming out of that question mark box that they're in, right? And giving them some relief. So
Yes.
that's what I felt as I read your bio, that it's like, oh my gosh, yes, I need her because it's needed. I from the industry that I came up in, everything's like fast paced and everything's like one thing after the other. So we need to slow it down to bring it together. And the part that I mentioned in your bio about being relatable, you are so down to earth. So I love that about you. And I feel that that's another plus that we connected.
Yeah.
So with that said, how do you start your morning?
So interesting. There's one overarching thing that like I think I've been overlooking that's really important to my mornings because there's not a lot of specifics. But when I was in corporate America, I'm a morning person, but I don't like alarm clocks. So all I would dream about was like, I can't wait to not set an alarm clock. So I have one day a week where I do have to get up early for a networking meeting, but every other day I don't set an alarm. And I love that. And recently I had kind of forgotten that that's been like, I think I took that for granted because I purposely don't start clients until 9 o'clock because I trust that I will wake up, be able to do what I need to do in the morning without the alarm clock. So it's like, what do I start my mornings without? And it's an alarm clock. And then in a call with my coach recently, she's like, you talked about that when you were in corporate, how much you didn't want the alarm clock. So it's something that I kind of forgot about, but so I don't wake up with an alarm clock. And that really is a very key piece of my
That's
morning.
awesome.
And it really is. It just still, I mean, if I have to, I will, but like, I really do try to like make sure if I am going to do something, it's got to be worth the alarm clock just because I don't know, there's just energy around that. And then when I wake up, I have a dog. I love her. She's the love of my life. I feed her breakfast, I make coffee, and then we sit together. And like, it's like really nice. Like she literally waits for me. If I start doing something in the kitchen, she like kind of stands leading into the living room, like, oh, it's time. Or on the weekend, sometimes if I go in my bedroom instead of the living room, like she's confused. So like that's our set thing. And then I sit down, she jumps on my lap, I have my coffee, and it's just 15 minutes of like just me and her. And sometimes I am checking my phone, sometimes I'm not, but it's me, her, and the coffee. And it's like the beautiful trifecta of the three of us, me, her, and the coffee. And it's a nice start.
And I love that you share that because I know, when years ago, when I was in the corporate world and the transition into entrepreneurship and then life happening in between that,
Mhm.
I find in the last 5 years, I'm in the zone of, less alarm clocks. I really don't need an alarm clock to get up, but it's a reminder also for my husband, so
Mhm.
he gets up at 5 in the morning, but I'm still in bed. And so I
Yes.
take that time just to really focus on being thankful,
Yes.
grateful for another day. And so I take that downtime.
Mhm.
But when we don't have to get up at a certain time, it's definitely off. It's
Yeah.
like, and it feels so good. But my body typically gets up early in the morning.
Same, same. I mean, I'm still up usually around like 6:30, 6:45. So it's not like I'm sleeping super late. And then there's things that I'll do sometimes, but it's not an every morning thing. But the consistent thing is really just space. Like I have found a way to create space for me so that I'm easing into the day, even when I have a really full day. Like today was a pretty full morning already. Like I've done a bunch of stuff already, and it's only 11:11 right now. 11:11.
Hmm.
So it's pretty early, but like I still gave myself that space, and it feels it's just a nice start to the day of the spacious.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned your corporate world. So how was that transition from corporate into entrepreneurship? And what was the spark to start your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah. So the spark came first before the transition. 10 years ago, actually, was when the spark got lit. I had relocated back to North Jersey. I worked for Target. So I was a store manager for them. I ran a store in Philly and then came up to Bergen County, New Jersey with them. And I just realized I was focusing on my health because I was over 300 pounds at
Mm,
the time. And I really wanted to have more time because I was definitely a workaholic. So I was really focusing on health and like time for me and balance. And in that space, I realized how much I wanted to help people and really be like the development part of my job I love. But if you've shopped in a Target store, like that's 2% of
mhm.
the job, non-existent during the holidays. So I thought, how can I do this more? And then I did soul searching and research combination and found coaching. And then I say, oh, this is it. So I found a really great certification program. Then that was 2015 to 2016. Then from 2016 through 2019, I focused on building the business. So I did both corporate and the entrepreneur side. And then in 2019, I left. And, I say this to people. I happen to get a decent amount of entrepreneurs as clients. They're not like, it's about 25% of my clients are entrepreneurs. And whenever they're making that transition, something that I offer, if it comes up organically in sessions, is there's a detox period. And I
Mm,
think sometimes that really gets overlooked. Like when you're in corporate culture or a company culture, it's a culture and we take that on. And that transition was very interesting because as much as I did this by choice and I was transitioning, I still realized there was like a rigidness that I had. So I spent like that first month, like I still did business stuff, but I also like binge watched a show I had seen already. It was The Good Wife. And I spent the whole June of 2019 doing that and other things because it allowed my body to know, okay, it's okay to relax. And there would be
mm.
moments that I'd be like uptight and I'd realize, oh, wait, that's the old. I was waiting for a call or on alert in case like something was going on in the business. And I was like, oh, I don't have to do that. And it probably took me a good 6 months to
Mm.
kind of shed some of that stuff. So the transition was interesting. And I'm glad I gave myself the space, but I didn't realize how much I still looked at the lens of the company culture, even when I was no longer in the company culture.
And I'm sure that, that transition of that company culture into understanding and developing your brand, right?
Mhm.
Because the brand is more than just the logo and all that, but
Oh my God.
you, the brand, how do you represent yourself authentically to the brand that you want to share?
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that. I don't think I truly understood that, like what you're sharing and describing on a visceral level until maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. And I had
Mm,
already been in business for a while and been in business full time for a decent amount. Like that idea of branding, I think it's very easy to be like, okay, our brains want something to look at. So we think colors, logo, and that's important. I'm not diminishing that, but like brand values alignment is like the deep work and the deep like introspection that I don't know that I fully like consciously connected until 3 years ago.
well, you have me beat because it took me 10 years.
It takes
It,
time.
it takes time because literally I thought a brand was my website colors. I didn't
Yes.
even have a logo. I thought my colors were a logo. So,
Yeah.
that whole process, and it wasn't that much of a thing like when I first started. So, because I started my business, it's been over 25 years now. So, it's that whole process that I had to really like, oh, wait, no, it's more than this. And I'm going to all these networking events. And then now we're starting to talk about the brand and then
Yes.
you, the brand. And I'm like, oh, wait, there's a difference. And now I feel that my brand is what stands out as,
Yes.
let's say, the Coca-Cola company or whatnot. Now I feel that that's what I have.
It's so true. And it's just, I'm thinking of this story when I was going through and doing some rebranding a couple of years ago. I didn't have a logo. So I reached out to somebody and they came highly recommended. And I was like, something simple. I'm thinking like a little chat bubble. And she understands branding on a deep level. She's great. And she's like, you need something more. And she spent time getting to know me and like who I
Mm,
served. And she made the most gorgeous logo that like I would have never dreamed of, but because she understood that, and I'm like, it totally represents me and my company
wow.
in such a deep way because it's so much deeper. It's not just about like a symbol. The symbol should have meaning. And I feel like there's a journey to get there.
Mm.
100%.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
true. And you're sharing this and so many different things are popping up. It's like, oh my God, it's like, yeah, oh, this and
Yes.
that. It's yeah, there's such a aha moment. So I hope that the listeners who are listening to this part that, it's also resonating on you as to your journey and your transition as well.
Mhm.
So you got your branding, you're understanding your business and what you want. How do you define your foundation and the core values as an entrepreneur? I asked that question because it took me a while, just
Yeah.
like the branding for to create my core values, and now I have them on my website.
Yes. Yeah, no, my core values are on my website too. And it's really about like that empathy, that connection, that
Yes.
understanding what's really going on underneath. Like active listening is one of my values because that's something that I bring with my clients. Because, when I'm working with somebody as a coach, I'm not telling them what to do. I'm listening for what's standing in their way. It's really very mindset. So that active listening and that empathy and that non judgment, like those are big, big values for me. And that's something that I commit to bringing to every single one of my clients in whatever capacity I work with. And it's just funny because those are also really big values for me in like my life. Like my core values as a person, like the top two values that I have is joy and growth. Joy, growth, and connection, right? Like those are the things that like are huge for me. Like I like those are huge. And I bring that, like I help my clients tap into more joy. I'm connected with them and I'm helping them grow. So it's just like there's the saying that you hear a lot in the self-development entrepreneurial world, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I think there's so much truth to that. Like
Mm,
really like we leave clues. Like I can look back on my life and there was breadcrumbs of all this. So yeah, it's just about like really kind of connecting all the pieces and looking at it
yeah.
holistically.
And I truly, now that you say that what you stand for, what your foundation core values are what is represented in your business. And that's the same with me,
Yeah.
finding your purpose and really gravitating to that versus trying to piecemeal everything, right? And it
Right.
has to be consistent because you are the business, even
Mhm.
though you may have a team or staff, depending on, what the business is about. But at the end of the day, it goes back down to what are your initial core values and how do they
Yes.
connect to you as the
Yes.
owner and the founder?
Yeah. Cause and I think this is like it's like a moment of reckoning. I feel like that happens for entrepreneurs. We will never, our business will never outpace us. So if we're
Mhm.
capped here at our growth, our business can't break that. And I think sometimes like we might forget that. So it's like it's almost like an ebb and a flow of like showing up for your business is showing up for you because the values
Mhm.
are the same. It's not like we put on different lenses. We're the same person as entrepreneurs looking at the world and experiencing the world. So it's really like, I think accountability is probably it's important for every human being.
Mm.
I think it's like important in a different way for entrepreneurs for this reason that we're talking about.
Yeah, that is so true. My core values for me starts with God and everything that I do. And so that was important for me to share. And then the impact, right, that I give back, the giving back, the
Mhm.
uniqueness of, everything that I do, respect, education, social responsibility. So all of that relates to me, but also what I want people to respect about my business,
Yes.
right? And so, since we've discussed and we started talking a little bit about mindset, why is it so important to do an audit of our stories? Like, how
Oh
does
my
that
gosh.
relate?
I think it's like the most important thing every single human being should do. How we see ourselves affects how we see the world.
Mm,
And we, as human beings, we make up stories. I mean, our brains are literally hardwired for closure rather than facts. So if we know, you know what, the sky is blue and it's 2 o'clock, we're going to automatically say, oh, it's daytime, right? And that's very simple and very obvious, but we'll do that and not even think about it. So we would rather have closure. So if we only have a couple of facts about something, oh, somebody made a face in the meeting and they looked down as I was presenting, our brains will naturally say they don't like what I'm saying, when it could be
hmm
their contact was weird and they're wearing new contacts, right? Or they didn't feel good, right? So we're going to
Yeah.
that story. So we end up being conspiracy theorists with ourselves. And if somebody, like, I'll use that contact example. If somebody is like presenting and they see somebody like the decision maker is rubbing their eyes, looking down and like kind of just like looks disconnected, if that person that's presenting has a story of, oh, I'm not engaging enough, I'm not smart enough, that's going to get activated. So if we're not actually thinking about, okay, what is happening and what are the stories I tell myself, we're going to interpret lots of stuff in the world and we're going to limit ourselves and we might limit the people that are around us. And every human being has a fear that they're not enough. And we attach
Mm,
stories to that. So if we're not sitting down and actually looking at that and slowing down, we will interact with the world in a way that it might block the very thing that we're looking for the most.
mm. And it's so, oh my gosh, this conversation could go on
Yes,
forever.
yes, it could. It really could.
Because it's like such my favorite conversation. Being in the event industry, I work with so many people, right? So many people of from different parts of the industry, different cultures, different personalities, different everything.
Mhm.
And one of the things I credit myself for being in the industry for so long is me being able to relate to, don't think first how
Yes.
they're acting, give them a chance, right?
Yeah.
And then the process goes after that. But one of the key things that has always and more recently as well with changes in, I would say in the last 10 years, with COVID, with changes in the world, first try to analyze and see, did they have something happen when they wake up personally? Did somebody pass away? They wake up sick? Did they get bad news? Did they lose a deal? Did so many different things are happening to those other people by the time they get to you, that going back to that contact example, let's say they were just in that meeting and just staring with no emotion or anything like that, and the presentation is exciting, but you don't even know what that person just went through by
No
the
idea.
time they got there.
Yeah. We have no idea. We make up the stories. But I mean, even like sometimes behaviors that don't feel good from other people, there's always a reason. I'm not saying it's
Mm,
okay, but there's always
right.
a reason. I remember one day there was a woman, this is years and years ago at Target, like 15 years ago. She was not kind. She's like, really was not in the clothing section. And it was like, she's looking for this shirt. And then by the time somebody actually had a conversation with her, I'm getting goosebumps as I say this, her child passed away and she was going to
Mm,
go to their funeral. No wonder she
mm,
had that energy that was showing up when she was looking for that. Like she didn't want to be doing that,
mm.
So I think there's always something going on. And
Yeah.
yes, we can help as people being like offering grace. And that's where the accountability factor comes in for other people, like just to realize, okay, how are they being received? So it's a two-way street.
Hmm.
But like we can
Yes.
start that by giving the grace to people and like, wait, what might be going on?
Yeah.
We're automatically making up the worst possible story. What's the best possible story? What's the most generous
Yeah.
presentation? And sometimes I play that game when I catch myself going, oh my God, they shouldn't do that. And I'll think like, what could be going on? And I'll come up with
Yeah.
7 stories. I'll never know what's true, but I'm like, oh wow, if any of those 7 things are happening, no
Hmm.
wonder. And then it allows
Yeah.
me to kind of let my guard down.
Yeah, and that's literally how it's helped me really, take a step back. And if there is a reason that our communication is still not great, then I have my partner that we switch it up and
Yep.
is a different communication
Yes.
setup, and then that works. And that's only happened maybe 3 times in all my years.
Mhm.
But the thing is to give that grace, to give that understanding. And people are like, oh my gosh, you're like the most patient and calm planner that I've ever met. And it's
Yes.
because this is what I bring to the plate,
Yeah.
and creating that mindset that you don't have to be like anybody else.
Right.
And it goes into that conversation of negative self-talk. So what is negative self-talk? Talk, and how can that sabotage our role and the success of
Mm.
our entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. That negative self-talk is that voice in our head. And some people have like it's louder. Some people call it like the self-critic or the inner critic or the gremlin. Like there's all these things, but it's just that loud, almost like that, like tapping on the shoulder incessant, like make sure, check this, check this. And I found that it gets louder when we're doing new things. So
Mm,
somebody who's stepping into a new journey or a new level of their career, it's gonna get loud again. Like that's just what happens. But like really like doing the work around that and like I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with that when we really do work, where did this voice come from? It comes from a point in their life when they were usually really young and it
mm,
protected them. Like if somebody had an overly critical parent, a child is going to naturally take on that criticism and look at the world through that lens to like try to get 2 steps ahead so that they can feel good with their parent as a 7-year-old. That's a great strategy as a 7-year-old. It doesn't work anymore as an adult, but it's like, how do you kind of release that autopilot? And sometimes we don't even realize how much it's like we think it's a part of us and it's not because it's always been there. So it's like really kind of slowing down, like analyzing where did this come from and how to kind of shift it away
mm.
and reintroduce different things, because I'm kind of talking in circles here, but I do believe that inner critic voice is trying to keep us safe, and safety is a really high priority for every human being. And it's about really like, okay, what if we didn't demonize this voice
Mm,
and started to figure out where did it come from? That's when we can start to move beyond it. Because when we're at odds against it, when we're at odds against anything, it's just more resistance and it doesn't move.
yeah.
When we kind of like reach across, and if anybody's just listening, I'm kind of like pushing my hands together, and then I'm
Pushing
also
a
like,
hand.
like more of a flow. We can do more when we're in that flow state. So it's like more
Mm,
like that curiosity, just like we do with the people out in the world. How do we do that with ourselves? Like, wait, why does this happen? What might this be trying to do for me? And work from there.
no, that and trauma is big. I know that that's something I'm sure that comes up a lot with you in your coaching.
100%. Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, I'm not a therapist, so
Hmm.
there's certain ways with when it comes to trauma where that's not my wheelhouse. But
Right.
when it comes to the messages we picked up when we were younger, that's not always trauma. And we can like kind of analyze, okay, what has this taught us? And I've worked with a lot of people who work with therapists and me at the same time, or they work with a therapist and they move on to me. So it really isn't, I'm listening for that, but sometimes it's trauma and sometimes it's just the messages we pick up when we're little and how do we
And we're
them
holding
be?
them
Yes.
still. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are any other thing with mindset that you feel holds back a business owner and entrepreneur from, other than the negative self-talk? Like
Mhm.
what other stories are you familiar with that you can share?
Yeah, I think that when I get there, I'll feel happy, or when I get there, I'll have this. Like I'm putting
Mm,
like so much stock in like the arrival point, and I think that that really trips up. I've seen that trip up a lot of entrepreneurs because then when you get there, it's like, okay, what next? Because how do you start to feel how you want to feel now? And like
mm,
really working through like that piece of it. I think that's really important to like think about as an entrepreneur. Like, don't put so much stock in the end. And then the other thing too is as an entrepreneur, and I mean, I've been doing this now for 10 years, this has not gone away. So I think in all the different phases, what I'm about to describe is still here. Like, there is an element of like trusting yourself, faith in the process, trusting the process. that like you'll do things and it's like, okay, is it going to bear fruit? Is it not going to bear fruit? And like, you just got to trust, because it takes time to like be in a system. And I see so many people, they do it for like a month, 2 months, and they're like, nope. And like some of the results that I've gotten are because I show up over and over again when there is no, it looks like there's no reward on the other side, but I'm still showing up. And then it's all of a sudden, it's like it pops, it's like just trusting, like when I actually forget about like the end, all of a sudden it comes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the other thing of like just creating systems and trusting yourself. But I think if somebody already has an issue with self-trust, it's going to be hard for them to trust themselves in business. And that's where that like you are the entrepreneur and the self, and it's like the working together piece. So
Yeah.
that those are the two things that I see really trip up on entrepreneurs, especially in the beginning, which stops them from getting to that next level.
Yeah. So with that, I'll throw in a
Mhm.
question that kind of relates to that. Since you've been an entrepreneur, what, if anything, has stopped your steps
Yeah,
personally?
not trusting myself. Like
Mm,
that's like personal. I've seen it with other people. I've coached so many new coaches and a decent amount of entrepreneurs, and then myself, and that happens still. Like I have to check
mm-hmm,
myself and have my accountability partner. I still have a coach that I work with. It's not as often as in the very beginning, but like she's on speed dial. Like I have at least a monthly session with her, if not twice a month,
mm-hmm.
but if I'm like questioning myself or too attached to an outcome, I can't get into the process to trust it. So that's something that's been like big for me. And it's something I always have to be aware of. Like, and really like keep my eye, not even on the prize, but on the process. Keep your eye on the process,
Yeah.
not the prize.
I'm glad you said that. I myself have a coach because it doesn't matter how long you've been in the business, having a coach or a mentor or a therapist doesn't mean it puts a damper on your experience, your expertise.
Yeah.
It actually highlights it. And I've had my coach for, I think, going on 3 years now. Oh my gosh. It's like if the heavens open. It was like
Mhm.
clarity. It was like an amazing, amazing experience that it allowed me to work on the process, not on the
Yes.
outcome.
Yes.
And when I rebranded last year, it gave me clarity. It gave me purpose. It gave me, a reason to understand what I do want to do,
Yes.
what I do want to bring to the plate.
Mhm.
So having a coach is definitely, to me, key.
It's so key. It really is so key. I mean, and like you think about some of the best in different industries, they have coaches,
Hmm.
so it's like they used to say when I was in coach training, every coach has a coach. And I was like, but I'm like, no, I can see why, because if
Hmm.
I'm stuck, I need to make sure I have my outlet so I can still show up for my clients. And
Right.
I think like it's really important to like still like that self-awareness piece. I think
Hmm.
self-awareness is like almost a taken for granted thing that like we're all pretty self-aware. I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast is self-aware.
Hmm.
We all have blind spots,
Hmm.
so having that continual connection like just for you is so, so important.
Yeah, and I do have mine on speed dial as well.
Yes.
She's gonna be like, "Yes, Jackie, you do." And it's important. And I can also share that I've had different types of coaches along the way. So maybe you don't have a coach that is with you for the long run. Maybe you just want to coach for a certain period of time, and
Mhm.
that's okay as well, right? It's not like you have to have a coach
Yes.
ongoing. I've had, this is actually my third coach, and but her time frame has been longer because of where I'm at,
Mhm.
what I am looking to do. So analyzing what it is that you need,
Yes.
and finding the person that you align with as well. Because,
100%.
I can definitely see how, you're attracting the people that you want to service, right?
Mhm.
Because you have these amazing qualities. It's just me seeing you, you have these listening skills and that are key to everything, right? And
Mhm.
then also the compassion and the empathy and the respect for those that are coming
Yeah.
to hire you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So if you had one superpower, what would that be?
Honestly, I probably wouldn't have a job if I had this superpower, but I'd still want it. Like to have people like really see like how good they are.
Mm.
Like I just sometimes it
Wow.
breaks my heart, like having conversations where I'm like, people just don't see it. Like we are our own worst critics. And
Mm,
sometimes I'm like, oh my God, if only I can get, if they could see what I see, whether it's a client, a friend, a loved one, like if I could have a superpower, it would be like to download that,
mm.
like dispel whatever the loud voices are, because I think that, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's a special one. That is key and important. And from what we shared already, is there anything else that you want to add that we didn't discuss?
No, this was such a good discussion. It
Okay.
was like so great.
So out of what we discussed, like what do you think are the biggest takeaways?
The mindset, the accountability, like I think like if we were to sum it up, like self-honesty and like
Mm,
really like look in the mirror, and I think that's like it doesn't always have to be with a coach or with somebody else that can help the process, but like really like what's really going on here? Just like the story that we might like make up about somebody else, do the same thing with ourselves. And what if we made up a different story, a more generous interpretation? Then what, like really being honest and like really analyzing and sifting through that really does help. It might feel heavy, but that healing really does allow for more momentum down the line.
mm, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And another question actually just came up, which was how do you handle or help others when it comes to them comparing themselves to somebody else or another company?
Yeah. Where did that come from? Like, what's the benefit? Because
Mm,
I ask clients this question. I'm like, what's the benefit of you doing that? There's no benefit. I'm like, no, you wouldn't do it if there wasn't a benefit. Like, let's really analyze it. And usually there's a sense of safety. There's either fear, so I really help the client figure out what it is for them that's underneath it.
mm,
Is it fear that they weren't going to measure up when they were younger, or when they were in their 20s at their first job, a boss said something and they never wanted to feel that way ever again. So they constantly compared to be 2 steps ahead, whatever the case may be. I mean, we could have 100 people all with that same issue, and there's going to be 100 different reasons why they have that issue. So I'm going to help them figure out like what's driving that, because it's always personal, and then figuring out how to move forward from that. And sometimes that awareness is so helpful, just to understand, oh, wait a second, that's why I have the story.
hmm
Oh,
hmm
okay. Okay. And like sometimes there's freedom in like actually acknowledging the story.
And stories, I mean, I truly believe that stories are key to healing and understanding your story and
Yes.
understanding, just taking a pause,
Yes.
a real good pause, and just really shutting down all of the noise
Yes.
and really moving ahead with that. Like you said, just the sense of awareness and the why.
Hmm.
That is key to understanding, but so many people's mindsets is like running so fast to that end goal, like you said,
Yes.
that we're
Well,
like doing it to ourselves,
we
right?
are doing it to ourselves. And even as you're saying it, I'm like, yeah, slow down to look at the story, but people might have a hard time slowing down. So the
Yes.
prereq might be actually, okay, is it safe to slow down? Let's work on that
Yes.
first so that they can look at this stuff. So there might be
Yep.
prereq work, and that's fine. That's okay. We are in a really fast-paced society that rewards goals and hustle. I'm not a big fan of hustle culture, but it's
Hmm.
rewarded out there, so of course it's going to be hard to slow down and take a minute. Like society almost says, don't do that if we look at all the messaging that we get. So sometimes the prereq is, okay, who makes the rules here? Why do these rules matter? Okay, now we can slow down and look at the stuff. So it takes time. We have to parse it apart.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned I have another question now because you said hustle. So I am so with you on that. And I feel like that's another thing.
Mhm.
The self-awareness, the negative self-talk, but also that the society that we live in, which is that battling between the hustle culture and what should I do? And that hustle culture can, and not to say anything that it's wrong with it, but that can cause so much anxiety to people that maybe that's not for them. And they're
Yes.
like, but no, but I have to do this.
Yes. Hustle culture gets a lot done really quickly, but it is really exhausting for everybody involved. And I think we only look at the first part, which is a lot done really quickly. So there's an advantage, but there's
Hmm.
also a disadvantage that I think we have just overly normalized. And it's not great for people. And even as a new entrepreneur, I leaned into the hustle culture. And I think that slowed me down. Trying to
Mm,
hustle slowed me down. I remember when I was in, my corporate job, I started like the 5 a.m. club. So I would wake up at 5 a.m. So I was clearly setting an alarm. That was so misaligned to me. Like it just
mm,
didn't feel good. And then I was like, why aren't I productive? I'm doing what I should be doing. I'm hustling. I have this hour and a half productivity before I start my day. And it didn't work because it wasn't aligned. So sometimes hustle
mm,
culture looks good. There might be a finished product. I'm putting up air quotes for anybody listening,
mm-hmm,
but is it really aligned? And that alignment
mm.
is so much more important than anything.
Yeah, and that's something that I also taught when I was teaching the courses on event planning and to new, let's say, some were seasoned, but mostly new people that wanted to get into the industry. I said, when you go take it step by step,
Mhm.
it's okay if you land this big job and you're able to do it, but take a step back because
Yes.
when you do step by step, you're actually really understanding that process.
Yes.
Whereas if you do that fast step, you're missing out on
Yeah.
some key elements in
Yes.
between. And it goes back to that hustle culture, right? It's like you're just going, 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 achieving that, hopefully achieving that end result, because sometimes you don't, depending
Yes.
on there's so many different variables, right? So it's really understanding, okay, what are you missing? You could be missing something really big that could take you further than
Mhm.
just that 3 month thing, that 90-day thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but
True.
ooh, so
Yeah.
many amazing nuggets here
Yes.
today.
Yeah. This
So
is such a great
how
conversation.
can, yeah, how can the listeners connect with you?
Yeah. So the best way to connect with me is my mailing list. I send out weekly newsletters where I just like kind of break down things that I'm either hearing a lot with my clients or, things that I hear out in the world. And like I break it down in more of a mindset way. And that's at my website, sarahwahibasenan.com. And then I'm also on Instagram, same name, Sarah Wahiba Senan, and then also on LinkedIn, same name.
Yep, and that'll be all in the show notes.
Yes.
And I know you also offer an assessment. Tell me
Yes.
a little bit about that.
It's one of my favorite things to do. It's the only thing that I do as a standalone with folks. And it's the kickoff for if I work with an engagement with a client. And it basically breaks down, it's attitudinal and perception based. So it's not personality based. So it can change and it breaks down how you're seeing the world, what is fueling you and what is draining you. And then we have an hour and 15-minute conversation where we talk through, okay, here's the patterns that are showing up for you. And I've had people tell me, how do you know this from 70 questions? I have no idea. I feel like you're a fly on the wall. I've also had people tell me it felt like a cleanse where like it gave
Mm,
like a reset and they got to see things like bird's eye view, things that they were showing up with. And then it also gives shared language when I'm working with somebody as a client. So it's called the Energy Leadership Index. It sounds very clinical, but I promise it's not clinical at all. And it really is. It's very insightful, and it really does offer like a snapshot of where the person is at that moment in time.
and I like that because I share a lot sometimes that, our past is ever changing, right?
Mhm.
And where we were yesterday is not the same, platform that we're in today, and it
Yes.
may not be the same tomorrow. So
Yes.
understanding that can really bring us a sense of understanding, right?
100%, 100%. And when we get really clear, again, we talked a lot around awareness. I had a client years ago. We started working together. She was an entrepreneur, new entrepreneur space, had two young kids. The end of our coaching engagement came right up with the start of COVID. So clearly, new
Mhm.
entrepreneur in a very physical world with young kids, you'd think very stressful. She wanted to take the assessment again to see. So here we are in this world changing event. Her stress levels were actually lower according to the assessment because she was seeing the world differently as
Wow.
a result of the work that we did. And this assessment gave her that picture. So
Mm,
this assessment really does say, okay, like it's not about like characteristics or behaviors. It's about like how are you seeing the world and what's going on for you? And let's get really clear on that and where does that come from? And then you have options on what you want to move through.
awesome. So I'll share the link to that. And I thank you for being here. It was such an amazing conversation because it's like my passion conversation
Yes,
about
me too.
mindsets and bringing it to the calm down, right?
Yes,
Understanding who you are so that you can bring more to the world, to others, and but most importantly, to yourself, right?
yes.
So thank you, Sarah, for being here with
Yeah.
us.
Thank you.
And for everyone, please reach out to her, comment, follow, share, and stay tuned for the next episode of Inspired by Jacqueline. Take care.